Um, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, our viewers, wherever you are watching this broadcast from. Today's session is about navigating challenging work environments. I'll be stepping in for our moderator, Dr. Ayak, who's having some technical issues, but she will be joining us in the course of this discussion. Before we start the discussion today, I would like to introduce some of the panelists who are going to be taking us through this session. The first panelist I'd like to introduce is Dr. Kuyang Harriet Logo. Dr. Kuyang recently completed her doctoral degree at the Institute of Peace, Development and Security Studies at the University of Juba. Dr. Kuyang teaches international law and international human rights law at the postgraduate level at the Institute. She also teaches women and the law and child law at the College of Law of the same university. Dr. Kuyang is an independent consultant working on democratic governance, access to justice, and the rule of law with the United Nations and international organizations, including academic institutions. Prior to becoming an academic and consultant, Kuyang served with the United Nations Development Program in the capacities of rule of law analyst, program analyst for the rule of law cluster, and access to justice specialist in the Sudan, South Sudan, and Timor-Leste. Kuyang received her first law degree from the Faculty of Law, Makerere University in Uganda, and her Master of Law degree from Ohio Northern University in the USA. Kuyang has published in the area of international humanitarian law, customary and transitional justice, and knowledge production on gender issues. Please say a quick hello, Dr. Kuyang. You said it already? Okay, great. I'll introduce our next panelist, Victoria Natoni Daniel Zindo. She's a mentor, a counselor, trainer, and advisor. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Community Development from Daystar University. She has work experience spanning from the year 2007. Most of her work experience is in the area of HIV/AIDS, youth, and child initiative projects, including sexual reproductive health projects. She is currently working with the with the Global Fund HIV project. Miss Victoria, maybe if you could just say a quick hello before we go to the next panelist.
Hello, everyone.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Engineer Ito Emanuela Ignacio. She holds a master's degree in management science and engineering from the China University of Petroleum, based in Beijing. She also holds a bachelor degree in oil and gas storage and transportation from the same university. And she's currently working with South Sudan Petroleum Pipelines Company as a senior engineer. Welcome, Engineer Ito. Please say a quick hello to the viewers.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ito. And I'll end up introducing myself, which was not the plan initially, but yes, this is Phoebe Jamal Odiong, an international human resources expert who holds a Master of Science degree in organizational development and is a certified human resources management professional with over 15 years national and international HR experience with the UN, having worked in South Sudan, Somalia, Kenya, Lesotho, and Venezuela. Before joining the UN, I worked with NGOs in as an administrative and ICT personnel. Today's topic is about navigating challenging work environments. And we have a couple of questions for our panelists who will take us through this very interesting topic. If you look around in most of our social media, many discussions are around this topic. And this topic also relates to mental health. So most of the times when you talk about navigating challenging environments, you end up having a conversation about our mental health. So to start us off, as we keep hoping that our moderator will log in at any minute, I'd like to take us through the first question. Dr. Kuyan, I'll ask you the first question. Is sexual harassment, bullying, verbal abuse, belittling, and lack of promoting part of human rights abuse at work? Please explain by giving examples.
Thank you very much, and for really stepping in the shoes. A very brief notice, very well. Just like any other environment, the work environment is regulated by certain guidelines, and so we are expected as workers, as employees, as bosses to work within those parameters. And as you know, you are a human resource specialist. Every organization has their own guidelines, and those guidelines, those regulations, those ethics are really drawn from broader, national and international frameworks that guide employment. And sometimes at the end of the day, we are humans. Work environments are very interactive places. And yes, from time to time, bullying occurs. From time to time, shouting occurs. Some bossy behavior as well, and also including sexual harassment. And I like that maybe you ask that I should, touch on some examples, because I think if we really provide examples in this situation, I think the point will reach home. Many times we have colleagues that come to us, and I think what's important is that we need to know whether these things, bullying, or sexual harassment, we need to know what they are at that point. Sometimes I have seen in an international organization where a whole country director shouts at somebody, and for some reason this person had to take that shouting. But is that shouting even allowed? Is that a violation of work related rights? It is. But most of the time we take it because you feel you need to keep your job, and this is a country director. So you just pretend you didn't see it, but it does happen. And from my own experience, I've seen it happening sometimes, even right there on the table in discussions, it happens. With regards to sexual harassment, again, it's about the statistics. It's about mostly females who really experience these things. But when do we know that we're being sexually harassed? Many times, and I give examples, people do come to you and they say, for instance, you have very kissable lips. What is that? You need to quickly know that this may look like a very friendly gesture that is really innocent, but it's not. And you need to know how you can respond. So, shouting, bullying, being belittled, sometimes I've been in situations, because I basically grew up in the United Nations system, and you have a boss coming over and saying, Phoebe, I don't like that dress. That dress is too short, and it's like belittling, and when do you stand up for yourself? And I just really want to conclude this point by saying, yes, it violates work ethics, it violates work related rights, but then it is you to stand for yourself, and you need to know when it's happening. And one thing you need to do, address it through the established channels that are provided in the workplace.
Thank you, Dr. Kuyang. I completely agree. Sometimes when we let such things slide, like the comment you just made, you have kissable lips, it graduates to something else. And at the time it graduates, I don't think we are ready for what happens after that. So thank you very much for highlighting that as an example. I think I'll go to Miss Victoria with the next question. Ms. Victoria, is it true that women with disabilities are more subjected to harsh working environments? Why do you think that is the case? And maybe please give us practical examples. and your thoughts on this.
Thank you very much, Phoebe, for this question. My answer is yes. Women with disability are more subjected to harsh working environment because, especially with us here in Africa, the physical infrastructure are inaccessible. So it makes it difficult for women with disability, like for us, example in South Sudan, that most of the offices or premises doesn't have lift. Women with disability, if they want to go to work or they want to do work, some of them even don't have wheelchairs. It becomes very difficult for them to access workplace. Poor transport infrastructure also makes it very hard for women with disability to access services and also to the workplace. Information and communication is another problem. Accessing it to women with disability is a problem. They are not able to, be able to be online or to be on the same level with the others, to catch up with others on issues with work and businesses. Only the office that is work, but even housework is work. At times women with disability, it makes it very difficult for them even to access clean water for domestic work. So it makes it very, very difficult for the women with disability. Discrimination is another problem at workplace. As Dr. Harriet said, these women are bold, or people have negative perception about them at workplace or at home and all that. And because of this lack of awareness and misunderstanding, it is the one that is causing all this discrimination. People don't know, people don't appreciate, people don't accept people with disability. Because of this, it's causing a lot of discrimination. Sexual harassment is one of the things that is happening to women with disability. And this one is really very common because these women are vulnerable. Men tend to, take them for granted for that. And because of that, they go through a lot of sexual harassment. Okay? So, as you said, let me give an example. I will only be able to give an example of sexual harassment that a lady narrated one time at a funeral place for her late husband. It was so touching that I was there. So this woman said that as she was growing up, she's disabled. She used to go to the borehole to fetch water. This man continued telling her that, disabled in Arabic is abkereng. The word abkereng itself is also discriminative. He used to call her abkereng, I love you. Abkereng, I will marry you. So this thing used to disturb her so much. As he continued saying it, she thought that it was really marriage, that he wanted to marry her. Then she accepted. After she accepted, he impregnated her with two children, and then he left her, and then he went with his life and married other women. So it was on the day this man died, is that day this woman come to the funeral. She said she's not going to cry. And this woman was already in her old age, in her 60s. She said she was not going to shed any tears because this man lied to her that he was going to marry her. He impregnated her, he left her. So, and she was there as she was narrating it. It was so touching. So it's real. These things are happening to women, and in most cases, they don't know that this is harassment happening. They think that maybe it's real, this man loves, or so, and then they accept it, and it's really affecting women all over the world.
Thank you very much, Ms. Victoria. As you were speaking, I tend to realize that if you go around many of the offices from Juba to many countries, there is no special attention given to those who have physical disabilities, and especially maybe in terms of movement and things like that. So I agree with you, things like staircases, where if someone has a disability, they can't go up the stairs and they need to go, then it becomes a challenge. But I know that we're going to continue with this discussion in the next questions. In this particular moment, I want to move a bit into the work environment. The employment has been a subject that generates a lot of debates on social, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. There's a lot of debate on employment. So when women get jobs, they are told they sold themselves out to get the job. Most times, not always, most times. When they are promoted, people say the same thing. When they get scholarships to take time from work, they're also told the same thing. When they start working, they are harassed. Some of them are sexually harassed by colleagues or even their own supervisors or managers at work. So all these factors have made many women quit their jobs or are working under stress or duress. So what I can say as an HR expert about all these factors is that these are truths that we can't run away from them. No matter the company, organization we end up working with, we will at some point have to face these challenges. As a nature expert, my advice to women is this: don't let anyone push you out of earning an income unless it's a personal decision. Don't leave a job in the political field, whether it's in the academic field, whether it's in organizations, whether it's in an industrialist company. You will never find perfect organizations. They might get to a certain level of making the environment conducive, but most times these are some of the challenges that women have to be ready to face because they are there, they exist. Now, what we need to do as women is we need to understand that you have already, as you get into the workplace, you have a strategy for your own career growth. You have a strategy on to move forward in your field, in your expertise. So I'll repeat what I said. Don't let anyone push you out of an income unless it's a personal decision because you have something else you're going to do. So you leave work because either you're going back to school, you're starting your own business, you're starting your own, maybe your own academic institution. Don't let anyone push you out of earning an income. Do not leave a job unless you have another one. It is 10 times harder to find a job when you don't have any. It's easier to find one when you're another job. So women, we need to understand this. The other thing we need to understand is we need to grow a thick skin. Everything have thick skin. Challenges that any challenge that is thrown at us, because the truth is, whichever office you go to, every office has its own set of politics. I'm sure if you ask Dr. Kuyang, she's experiencing some sort of politics in whichever environment she's working in. If you ask Ms. Victoria, she's experiencing the same. Engineer Ito will tell you it's not easy in the engineering field. So it's never going to be conducive for you. You have to form a thick skin so that you're able to organization. It could be worse in this one and a little bit diplomatic in this other one, but you still face some sort of politics. The other thing I always say, be productive, be indispensable. Do your work with excellence because that is what will announce you. Nothing less, nothing more. Your work is what will announce you. In whichever field you choose to get into, do your work with excellence. The other thing I normally say is if you don't like how you're being spoken to, how you're being treated, anywhere you are, anywhere you're working, diplomatically, tactfully, respectfully, and factually speak up about it. We need to learn to speak up. The times to keep quiet when you're being harassed, when you're being disrespected, when people are taking advantage of you, are long gone. You need to speak up, and where you need to set your emotions aside. And that's why I said you need to diplomatically, tactfully, respectfully, and factually speak up about any issues you're facing in your office. I am a firm believer that dialogue can solve a lot of issues, real or perceived, because some issues are not real, they are perceived. You look at them from your own perception. So if you can have dialogue with people in the office, whenever faced with a challenge, trust me, it's want to also talk about is don't shy away from highlighting your achievements. Most times you'll find you're sitting on the table with women who are very passionate about what they do. They have excellent skills, they have excellent achievements, but they never talk about it. Instead, they keep quiet, and even if they've done an assignment, somebody else is taking credit for it. They're on the same table and they're keeping quiet. Why don't you say, oh, just to add that we work together on that project? We need to stop shying away from speaking up about our achievements, whether in your CV, whether in meetings, in forums. If you want to be recognized, you have to rightfully highlight your achievements. Nobody's going to do it for you. You're the one who knows what you've done with yourself. You know how much you've put into this project. But if you keep quiet and let somebody else take the credit for it, you're not helping yourself. That's one thing I would want to really stress when it comes to the women. If you have creative ideas, if you have problem-solving ideas, and people are seated at the table and giving these ideas, don't shy away from giving yours. At the end of the day, if you share them behind the scenes, someone else is going to present them and take credit for it. We need to start standing up for ourselves and saying, no, I have an idea on how we can handle this situation. And not share, because most of the times what we do, because we are shy about saying, giving our ideas and discussing, out of the box what we think should be done, we share it with other colleagues. Most times, I'm not saying all the time, we share it with men. They end up presenting it as their own and taking up the credit for it. Don't let anybody do that. If you have an idea in whichever workspace you're in, don't shy away from sharing it. It's yours. At the end of the day, no one can execute it better than you. This is one thing I would want to really encourage women about. And the other thing, which is not the last but not the least, because we still have a lot of questions in regards to this topic, avoid workplace drama. Please, let's avoid workplace drama. It's not necessary. We don't need it, because if you surround yourself with drama, even if you're not the cause of it, most people will associate you with it. So avoid drama at the workplace. Stay away from it as much as possible. I have a lot to talk about this topic, but let me go to Engineer Ito. Engineer Ito, I'm going to take you through your first question. So, what has been your experience or the experience of women working in male-dominated fields like engineering? If you could just share a few things, even an example of some of the challenges you've gone through, we'd be very appreciative.
Thank you. Actually, being an engineer is not something easy. As we know, we women, people always under lookers of like saying this field is not good enough for women. But of course, with that hope and the belief that you have in yourself and the confidence that you have to take it, no matter what is going to happen there, you are determined to take it. My experience working as an engineer, currently I'm working with an oil industry, and most of the things, let me actually talk of sexual harassment in the oil companies on women. That thing is about 95% is actually done on women, or even ladies who are engineers themselves. In the oil field, let me take an example here in South Sudan. There are no adverts being advertised for job opportunities. As many of you know, there are ways on how they employ ladies. Whereby, like me, when I graduated in 2019 for my master's, I had a colleague who was an engineer and he was working ahead. He was here in South Sudan. So when I was coming back from China to Juba, he texted me, "Hi, engineer, how are you? Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. Please, when you get to Juba, give me a call." Okay, I got to Juba. After 2 weeks, I gave him a call. We met. But what shocked me was like on the meeting, maybe he was expecting me to take him somewhere or maybe bring him to our house. But no, we ended up on the roadside. And all of a sudden, he told me, "You have a job. I secure for you a job. If you want really this job, get me a pyramid." And that thing was a whole big thing for me. I told him, it's okay, I will get you. That was my word. I deleted his number and I called off that job. And from my experience, I have colleagues who are working with me in the workplace. We do interact, and most of them, I think, have gone through a lot, but they can't speak for themselves. They fear. They have that fear, like, okay, if I speak for myself, I'll be, maybe my contract will be cancelled. I'll be chased out from my job. But I've been telling them, no, you have that right. There are procedures that you have to take to approach such a situations. Such happens not only here in the oil industries. It happens even in any organization or any other small company. All these things happen, but you should know and have ways on how to address them. If you don't know, tell to a sister. You are many here, and that person is going through the same thing that you are going through. If you keep quiet, you are going to die slowly, because you will never live that life that, okay, I'm free. You will always be thinking of the past that you've done. And again,
It seems we've lost Engineer Ito. We'll just move on to Dr. Kuyang and maybe get her back when she logs in. Dr. Kuyang, my next question to you is about the perpetrators of sexual, is she back? Not yet. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, you have experience as a human rights lawyer. Based on your experience, who are the perpetrators and who are usually the victims of most sexual, oh, wow, all right. I seem to have lost, most of the team seems to be having internet issues, so I will just move forward to probably the question I would have asked myself, but the question is that it concerns HR policies. So what I need to talk about is, what do most HR policies state about working environments? Now, I think if you are in a good work environment, you do not even need to know what the policy states. Most times you will know you're working in a good environment. So you will definitely know, because the environment will be peaceful, it will be motivating, it will be encouraging, you will be enjoying going to work every morning. But just to touch a bit on the HR policies that concerns work environments, most of the policies talk about a clean and visually appealing environment, which has adequate lighting, particularly from natural resources. So we have big windows, we have fresh air coming in. They talk about gadgets and the tools of trades, like providing employees with desks, computers, depending on the industry, gumboots, helmets. So most of the work environment policies talk about what we need to make sure that the workplace is conducive for the staff. But what we are not told most times is, how do you know you are in a hostile working environment? So this is what I want to focus on, instead of answering about the good and conducive work environment. How to know you are in a different, which is most likely a hostile work environment, is that there's always poor communication, especially within the organization. There's poor communication. There's the flow of information is normally not consistent. It's probably not even existing. And you find that there's a lot of bias. Some employees are favored over others in the workplace. And when employees raise issues about certain things in the office, there's no action that is taken either by management or by the supervisor. And then that the environment is so toxic because of gossiping co-workers. When you're in such an office, then you definitely know you are in a toxic work environment. Another thing that can make you realize you're in a toxic work environment is if you wake up to go to work every day and the first thought you're thinking, do I have to go to that office? because most times you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling anxious, you are so stressed, and you are distracted, you're just not in excited about your workplace. Even when you wake up in the morning, all you can think about is, when will I stop going to this office? If that's how you feel right now, or if you've ever felt this before, please note that you are in a hostile working environment, a very toxic one for that matter, because your work is supposed to be exciting. Every morning you wake up, you can't wait to get back to the office because you've come up with ideas, things you want to implement, things you want to do, people you want to see in the office. If that's not how you feel about your workplace, you need to re-examine it, because most likely you are in a toxic work environment. The other question most people like asking is, when does the human resource department intervene? And what steps should an organization take to handle these complaints? One thing staff need to understand, and this is staff across the board, it doesn't matter whether it's an organization or companies, HR will only intervene if a formal complaint is launched. So if you meet me at the corridor and chat with me concerning an issue and you don't want to report it officially, I will give you advice as a friend, because it's an issue you don't want to launch officially as a complaint. So most times I normally ask staff, are you discussing this issue with me as Phoebe or as Phoebe HR? Because I need to know whether you're asking me for my personal advice or you are asking me what procedures you need to follow to launch this as a formal complaint. Then I can be able to advise based on what you tell me. So please note that HR will mostly and only intervene when you launch a complaint officially. So if it's a discussion on the side, it cannot be handled on the side, because every organization, literally every legit organization, already has policies and procedures in place to tackle workplace complaints. So, and the other thing we need to understand is that these procedures, these set procedures and policies, is not a one size fits all. Every organization is different. So whatever policies and procedures of addressing complaints in the manufacturing industry will not be the same as the ones in the NGO, will not be the same as the one in the UN, it will not be the same as the one in an academic institution. So these policies and procedures are not a one size fits all. They are very different based on which industry you're in. So what I would advise staff, and this is what I tell most of my staff, every time you join an organization, to read and understand all policies, especially those related to you as an employee. I would highly recommend again that you give more attention to those related to sexual harassment or to abuse of authority. Because if you look at majority of the complaints we receive from staff, they fall under an abuse of authority. So these are some of the policies you really need to familiarize yourself with. And it's just a good practice. Every new organization you join, familiarize yourself with policies, especially, I repeat, the ones that focus on you as an employee. What are you entitled to? Should you face something like this, who can you write to? Who can you reach out to? What are the procedures laid out? Well, who is the first person you're supposed to report to? Once you understand all the basics of how your organization works, it will be easy for you, because anytime you're faced with a situation that you're not even sure about, if you're not sure about how to handle it, you've not read the policy, my next comment would be that you consult very widely if you have to. Consult your HR, consult your ombudsperson, consult your staff representatives if you have any in your organization, consult your HQ, your headquarters, if you have one. Most organizations have a policy unit or a policy person. Write to them. Just, you don't have to say it's you. It can be a hypothetical question. If a staff is faced with this situation, how can I handle it? How can they handle it? And the person will be able to write back and say, please let them know they have the following structures. They can write to this person and that person. And as Engineer Ito mentioned earlier, don't keep quiet when you're going through something. Share it. And also when you're sharing, I need you to be very careful. That's why I highlighted the following people. Consult your HR, consult your ombudsperson, your policy unit, your HQ. Someone somewhere will give you the right guidance, because sometimes when you consult the wrong people, again, you create another problem for yourself. The other thing also, sometimes we talk about employees only, but if there are people here who own organizations, you need to do what I call a health check for your organization. Occasionally, it could be biannually or annually. Do a staff survey. do a staff survey, let it be anonymous so that you don't victimize anybody, and just try and gauge how you're doing, how you're performing as an organization in relation to your workplace environment. You can pick specific topics, maybe around sexual harassment. You can pick around how do they feel when they come to the office? Are they motivated? You know, you can do general topics and just get feedback. This will help you have a feel of how your staff generally. And then with this information, you can sit as management together with a few staff representatives. Most organizations have that. You can sit with them and then come up with a work plan to address areas that staff have rated you very low. Address them, come up with a work plan and say, okay, we've received your complaints. This is how we are going to handle it. We are going to handle it in phases. We'll tackle this in this phase. We'll tackle this in this phase. That's how you help to resolve issues in the workplace. Welcome back, Dr. Kuyang, Victoria. I see we've still lost Engineer Ito. So we can move on. I think the discussion still has a lot of interesting areas to talk about. So Dr. Kuyang, would you like to go ahead with the second question?
Mhm.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So basically, you know, first of all, when I was invited to be on this panel, I really say to myself that I think this is a time where we're doing peer-to-peer mentoring.
Yes.
And we have a lot of our sisters out there who may not know some of these things. And I pick from some of the things that you had said earlier, Phoebe, and also Victoria, that, you know, when these things, all of the harassment, you know, being discriminated against are happening, you know, you said avoid workplace drama. So in terms of statistics, the perpetrators of these things are usually men, because the workforce is always dominated by men. So there's really very few women. And sometimes you find yourself in a place that we women, we are naturally emotional. And that weakness has been used against us because we don't know how to articulate issues. We don't know how to dialogue. We come off as too emotional. So it is always good to calm down, be as professional as you can, and try to handle these issues. Because with, you know, these are human rights violations, to be honest. And when they happen to you, you need to be able to use the right channels to make sure that this is being addressed the right way, and you're not being victimized for speaking up. And you're not even being, you know, discriminated in the workforce because you are, you know, because of the nature of our gender. We sometimes don't know how to raise these issues. We're afraid to raise them. And so use these forums. And when we look at our laws here in South Sudan, you know, we have the Bill of Rights, which talks about equality, fair treatment in the workplace. We have an entire Labor Act. I was so happy when it was promulgated that now we're not using the Sudan one, but we're using the South Sudan one, and that we can use this. And that's why we refer even in the Labor Act as fundamental rights at work. What are your rights? When are they violated? You know, the perpetrators are very smart, Phoebe. They're really smart, you know. Sometimes they tell you you're pretty, all of these things. And as a woman, I mean, you know, sometimes I've been extremely sarcastic to them. I have said, "Oh God, I had no idea. You are the first one," you know, to just really, because that's where it starts, you know. And then I remember, you know, engineers saying, you know, sometimes you're given you're given the impression that if you needed this, you can only get it through me. No, 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 no. You are competent and you can get it. And so once these things do happen, we really need to know that there is a law that safeguards our rights, and we have every right. And one thing as peer-to-peer mentoring, don't be, because this is the thing with sexual harassment, which for me I think is one of the biggest violations against us women. And now I speak from my experience as a lawyer. You have to have evidence. You are not going to say Mr. X or Madam X touched me like this, or they say like this. So as peer-to-peer mentoring, you need to be able to look to start. And I'll give you an example of one time where a colleague in the UN, he chose his time to be the predator. He knew the system so well, and he came to the office at that particular time to say things like, you're pretty, you're this, you're that, to make you feel as if you're so special. No, you're already so special. You don't need a reminder. So what do? These conversations happen between the two of you, and there's no third party. And if you're going to sit before these disciplinary or ethical committees, they'll say, so what happened? And as you're explaining yourself, it's going to be your word against theirs. These guys have perfected the art. So as to peer-to-peer mentoring, I always gather my evidence. And it's not wrong to gather your evidence. In this particular situation, I recorded the person and eventually told him, because you have levels of managing these things. You can manage it at the individual level without even going ahead. You can just literally tell somebody, no, this is wrong. If you do it again, I'm going to report you. If they are persistent, get your evidence. And when you get your evidence, keep your evidence far away from being destroyed. Then you can tell them, I have my evidence. It works that way. And so what I'm really saying, Phoebe, is that you just need to know when that happens, and you have regulations and laws internally in the organization, nationally, and you just need to know where to go. But you need your evidence. You cannot go say, Mr. X touched me here. He will look, people are dishonest in the workplace. You would be shocked at this person who's been saying these things to you, looking everybody in the eye, looking the committee in the eye, and saying she is lying, and you need to be able to do that. And Phoebe, if I remember my questions right, I think there's a question on who are the perpetrators? Who are the perpetrators? The sexual harassment, yes, the bullying, sometimes the shouting, and the workforce trauma. And Phoebe, for me, I take this chance to tell women that we too are sometimes the perpetrators. And this forum is there to educate us that we as women, we are unique, we are come in different shades, different beauties, and we should form networks to take ourselves to the next level. Many times workforce drama, toxic work environments, I think 80% is perpetrated by women, because women need to strike a balance between professionalism. You hear some, you're in HR. You have people actually going and saying, do you know so-and-so is divorced? Do you know so-and-so? Do you know the age of so-and-so? And then it becomes, so I think I want an environment where women are confident. We come in different colors, different expertise, different strengths, and we use all of that strength. And I think it would really, really work very well for women. And in terms of the other, crimes that are committed against us in the workplace, there are always channels. Because sometimes as you try to handle it, the person who is the perpetrator changes and they start to hate you for absolutely no reason. They start to discredit you, belittle you. It goes to what you said, Phoebe, and I conclude that know your worth, know your strength, and do your job. In all my years of experience, I have never seen any petty perpetrator winning. There's no petty perpetrator. There's no petty bully. They never win. Just do your job, work hard, be professional. It always somehow goes in your favor. Thank you.
Wow, excellent. I love your conclusion. I tell women every day, forget everything else. Just do your work with excellence. And I agree with you. There's no bully, there's no gossip, there's nobody who can challenge a professional person. Once you do your work with professionalism, it will speak for itself. It will be what will announce you. So thank you very much, Dr. Kuyang. Engineer Ito, I don't know whether I should go ahead with you. Are you okay now, or should we go ahead with Victoria as you try and sort out the challenges you're facing? Maybe just let me ask. You're okay to move on, Engineer Ito?
Yeah, I'm okay to move on now.
Okay, great. Welcome back. I know how the internet can be challenging sometimes. So what I will do, I will combine the first and second question for you so that you're able to answer both of them together, just in case. So I will ask it again for the sake of the viewers who are probably not logged in earlier. So what has been your experience or the experience of women working in male-dominated fields, like what the field you're in right now, engineering, and how do women in your field navigate difficult working environments? Please give us practical examples. I think that should do, yes? Please go ahead.
It will. Okay, thank you once more. I think on the question one, I highlighted some of the things before. The experience that we got as engineers working in the field-dominated area. Some of these challenges, of course, the experience cannot be different from other companies or NGOs or any other small organization or whatever it is. One, of course, the sexual harassment, it's obvious. And most of the women in the oil industry go through really a lot of sexual harassment, more especially those ones that don't believe in themselves. Those ones doesn't have confidence in what they do. Those ones who think that maybe this is the most interesting field whereby you can be highly paid. You just have to surrender yourself for something that will not even bring good reputation to yourself. But according to my experience, I've been working there. I have other girls, other colleagues that we used to share a lot with them. There are those ones that have gone through that, and there are others who have used the right channel to get their jobs. But of course, even if when you're working, sexual harassment is not all about maybe going with a man on bed or something. Words can be a way of sexual harassment. Even body contact can be a way of sexual harassment. And this one happens. It happens. That was a day, for example, for me, I have a colleague who is working in the IT department. And for me, I work as a technical personnel in the department of the engineering. But this guy, he could not speak to me directly that, yes, Emanuela, I'm in need of you. Instead, he will just come sometimes and be like, hi girl, today you look so gorgeous. You've added more eyes. Telling me that in the office. He continued almost more than 3-4 times. And if I'm not in the office, he could call me on phone. Emanuela, where are you? You're supposed to be in the office. So I counted it 3 to 4 times. I could not face him. I went straight to my boss, and I reported to my boss that if this is how this work environment is, I'm not going to work here because I cannot lower myself to someone who is of that. And I told him, this and this happened because you have to talk professional and you should have evidence. I told him on this day, he called me at this hour, he said ABCD. And on such a day, he called me and he said this. Now, when he was put together with me, he was like, no, you know what? I was just trying to tell you that you should be coming earlier to work. You should be doing this. You are not doing this. I told him, I'm not under your control here. Now he was not, he threatened me saying, do you know the boss of this office is my uncle? I can tell him to sack you anytime. I told him that is not a matter for me. I believe in myself. I've gone to school like the way you've gone to school. I've sat down to read books like the way your uncle or whoever does, and I cannot get that cheap idea from you telling me you can tell this to your uncle. Tell your uncle, let him come and call me. I will know how to talk to him. That was my own experience. I felt that day, I felt completely out of the space. I felt completely out of the space. And I'm the only girl actually working in that same office. And yeah, we have other colleagues. Other colleagues, yeah, they're okay, they behave well. Not everyone actually in your workplace can be nice to you. And for me, I'm friendly to men. I have a lot of experience. If I'm going through something, I share with them. I will always be frank to them that there is ABCD going on, and then they advise me accordingly that this is what you're supposed to do, because we have work ethics. We have work ethics in the office. You cannot date someone who is with you. You cannot harass someone who is working with you. And more especially as a girl or as a woman working with you in that organization, you cannot take advantage of me as being a woman that I have nothing to say, or maybe that person is related to you. You can take that as an advantage for you to date me or to harass me sexually in the office. That thing like that, it won't work. For me, I speak for myself, and I also speak for other girls who feel like she cannot speak up, and she tells me that they say ABCD. I go to them, I listen to what they say, and I will tell my boss, ABCD is not right. There is this taking place, and no one is even bothering on how to attend to this person, but this person needs attention. Yeah, I always do that. But also, as for us as women, if you see weakness in your sister or on your friend who is a girl and she's going through some of this, you should talk to her, guide her, give her that hope, give her that courage that she can speak out for herself. Yeah, and for the second question.
Yes.
Okay,
I think
how do we deal with such situations? Like me, I'm just a simple person. As Ito, I don't do a lot of things. I don't like gossiping within the office. I do exactly what is being assigned to me to do. When that time comes, when I finish, I go out. When you are in such environment, to avoid all this, one, you should know what you are supposed to do, what you are assigned to do. You should keep focus in that. And of course, you can also have interactions with your colleagues. And even if however much you were a boss, for me, it's good for you sometimes to lower yourself to someone who is down here on earth to you, that you may think that she may not help you. That person will help you with advice. And this is how we've been pushing in that field. There are a lot of things like sometimes when you are there in the field, you have to avoid these emotional emotions when you are dealing with such crimes of sexual harassment. When you are going to present yourself, of course, maybe to the person who is in charge, you should not be emotional, because if you become emotional, no one is going to listen to you. They may cook up all what you said and say, no, it's like this, it's like this. And you must also lead with a purpose. In any place that you are in, whether you are doing a cleaning job, whether you are doing what, you should know the purpose why you are there. Were you there to get a man? Were you there to do something? If you have that purpose, I think these other things will not even motivate you. You have to do something. Like for me, if I have all that stress from work, it's not an easy thing. I will just come home. I have something to keep me busy. Maybe I take my books, I read my books, I talk to someone, telling the person the experience that I got that day, maybe an elderly person, to give me advice so that the next day, if I go to the office, I may not misbehave to that person, because I'm a short-tempered person. I can take anything from there and just throw it on you. Yeah, I think what I can say.
All right. Thank you, Engineer Ito. And this is something that Dr. Kuyang highlighted. She said that most of the women respond with emotions and feelings. But in this case, we need to change that. We need to start responding with facts and being professional and putting aside our feelings and emotions. So, yes, I agree with you. After work, we all need an outlet. So everybody needs to figure out, when you have a stressful day, what is your outlet? Before I go into the next round of questions, I'll finalize our second question with Ms. Victoria. Ms. Victoria, you have worked with women and HIV/AIDS for a very long time. Do you agree that when people, especially women, disclose their HIV status, they tend to be against and subjected to harassment more than everybody else? Please feel free to tackle this question.
Thank you very much, Phoebe. I do agree with that question. Women disclose their HIV status mostly because of the PMTCT service, you know. It is compulsory for every woman who is pregnant to be tested for HIV. So when these women go to the hospital and they are tested HIV positive, you know, they are asked to, you know, to come up with their husband, their boyfriend. And at that moment, the woman doesn't have any option. She has to go and disclose her status to the husband and to the family. So usually what happens is when she reach home and she discloses it, most of the time, the family members discriminate against her because she is the first person. She is the first person to announce the HIV in the family, because in most cases, men are quiet. Even if they are positive, they won't talk about it. They will wait, they won't talk about it. They can even be on treatment, taking their drugs, they will not even let you know. But once this woman comes to announce it as a first person in the family, everybody will turn up and say that she has brought the HIV to kill our son, you know, to kill our brother, and everybody turns against her. And usually, the husband discriminates against the woman because of fear. He fears the divorce. The woman may divorce him. He fears the in-laws. How is my in-law going to hear about it that I've infected my wife with the virus? What about my friends? So in most cases, men tend to discriminate against the woman, just to reject her, chase her away from the home, you know, behave the way they are as a man. So I've seen the worst discrimination that I can talk about it is when women are the ones discriminating their fellow women. You know, us being a sister, us being a mother, you know, and your sister-in-law have disclosed that she's having HIV, and then you tend to discriminate against her as a woman. Your daughter has been tested positive. She comes and tells you that she has been tested positive, and you start to abuse her, insult her, chase her away from the home because she's tested positive. This is the worst discrimination that I can talk about, when a fellow woman is discriminating against another one. The other one comes because of lack of information and knowledge. People don't have information. People don't have knowledge about HIV. And because of that, they just tend to discriminate against each other. So I am urging each and everybody to really, you know, try their best to understand what is HIV, how is it transmitted, how can somebody live positively with the virus, so that discrimination ends, so that these women can be freely live, take their treatment without discrimination. Because once they are being discriminated, they will develop stigma. And this stigma will not be able to allow them to access treatment, you know, and it will not even give them opportunity to live positively. So that is what I can say at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much. I do agree with you. There's a lot of stigma, and I think that's why most people are afraid to disclose their status, because the fear of how people will perceive you after that. Great. Anything to be helps to be questioned on the laws of South Sudan in regards to sexual harassment. And do you that women are more vulnerable to being subjected to difficult work environments? What legal steps can one take if their rights are violated at work? So maybe just let me recap the question. What does the law of South Sudan say about sexual harassment? Is this violation punishable according to the laws? Do you agree that women are vulnerable to being subjected to difficult work environments? And what legal steps can one take if their rights are violated at work? And most likely they've exhausted all means of addressing the violation at work. What other steps can they take?
Well, that's a very good question. And I think we're narrowing the discussion down to what can we do if sexual harassment and other work-related violations happen. Where is your first point of action? And this is the thing, because yes, it is punishable under the law in South Sudan, but then work environments have their own guidelines on sexual harassment, on even bullying, or even a very toxic work environment. So one thing is know your rights. That is one. Know your contract very well. You know what are your what rights are embedded in your contract. What in some organizations actually they kind of take you through the system. You are employed and then you're taken through the system. Should this happen, this is where you go. So there are several channels. And the first thing because as a lawyer, and I always tell this to people, we don't go to court all the time. We would be exhausted. We don't even go to the HR all the time to report. So your first point of action is how do you engage with this person? If it's sexual harassment or you're touched or you're this, the first step to you is don't do this again. Don't tell me this again. That's really your first step. And do it professionally. I don't like what you're doing. I don't like what is being done. So with regards to sexual harassment, there are several policies of, in NGOs, in UN, in the academic spaces. And actually, in some, we get to sign those, sexual harassment declarations. We sign them. So everybody is kind of committed to that. So your first point of action, and I always say this, look at the person and tell them, no, this is not good. I don't like it. And if it continues, then you escalate. You escalate. Depending on your work environment, you escalate. You can go like in the UN, we used to have staff associations. We have these chairpersons. We have the sexual harassment committees in the UN. You escalate, you go to them. But my dears, before you go to these channels, please have your evidence. I think engineer mentioned earlier how she was really actually being sexually harassed, but when they sat at a table, the person told her I was just because you didn't have evidence. So if you see it is getting bad, have your evidence, escalate it to what is within. And if it fails, because sometimes it is perpetuated by the bosses, sometimes it is perpetuated by the bosses, and they perpetuate it in very interesting ways. One is he may want to take you for all the meetings. He may want you to be in everything, and it first comes with so much praise towards you. You're excellent, you're good, you're like this. So if it is your boss, then who do you escalate it to? That means you must go to HR. And if you go to HR, you must have your evidence. If it fails, and I'm singing evidence, evidence in all the steps, because without it, it's your word against us. And if it doesn't work, yes, you can file a case of sexual harassment. The labor law is very explicit, and it tells you what happens when these rights are violated. Our constitution itself has an entire Bill of Rights and talks about equality in the work environment. We have other, for instance, the Child Act, certain age of children, they're allowed to work. So in that age, you can go to the courts and you can file your case. But in the absence of evidence, then your case can be thrown out. So I think what's very important for all of us is have your evidence. If it is emails, WhatsApp chats, recorders, I'm sorry, I don't want you to be dangerous, but I always have my recorder with me. It works wonders. So have it always with you. And then, so if you keep escalating through the judicial system, if you went to a magistrate court, you're not getting the remedy you would wish, you escalate it to the highest level. And we also have the Employee Justice Commission. I'm not sure if it is working. We have it at the national level. We have it at the state level. That's also a very good forum. And then also the Human Rights Commission. There are so many avenues outside of the system. If you feel the work environment is throttling you, is frustrating your efforts, escalate it. Because one is that if you don't go through this, then in some situations you find these people are terminated. Your contract will not be renewed, and they will give very interesting reasons. I've been in the UN, and for instance, one reason that somebody was terminated for was that they did not represent the UN agency I was with, to the highest expected level. So your contract will, but what is that? It's a very ambiguous term. Yet behind it is because of sexual harassment issues, and they want to get this person out of the way. So there are several other remedies. And also recently I was doing some work and I got in touch with the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Labor. They're really good. They're actually asking for cases. So there's really several women. Yes, it is a crime, and you really need to know that it is a crime. Some of it comes off as really, really innocent, a lift in the car, and then you get told things, sometimes we women, when we are told that we are beautiful, we feel flattered. The perpetrator is being smart. He's actually gauging you and how you are going to receive, and then they up their game. After those comments, then they go to very sexually explicit comments. Maybe you have nice hips, you have kissable lips, they keep escalating. And when you see that they're escalating, please let them know you're not comfortable. Nicely, hey, this is not good and I don't like it. And another thing that really works, if they're not in your department, try to avoid them. Try as much as you can to avoid them. And if it's not working out, then you escalate it. And earlier on, engineer touched on something, and I want to emphasize this. I've been in situations where you think you're the star staff. You are the girl. You are the star. And you are taken in all meetings, and they want to sit next to you. And before they ask a question, they touch you. No, that's wrong. That's the start. And try to avoid it. Sit the opposite side. They want to keep you late in the office. And some of the perpetrators are so dangerous, Phoebe, that some of them even tell you, people are saying that I'm so close with you, there's something going on between you and me, and for me, I am okay with you. Please tell them you're not okay with it. They may be okay with it. Tell them I'm not okay with it, because for us women, it's about our reputation. So yes, it's a crime. And yes, there are several avenues, but please, my sisters, have your evidence. WhatsApp messages, text messages, even the recorders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuyang. I completely agree with you. It starts as a subtle comment and ends up in something you're not ready for. So I totally agree with your comments on this. And I hope my sisters are listening. You need to have your evidence. Going to HR, going to whichever authority without evidence is an act in futility, because they will dismiss you. They will change the narrative, and you'll be shocked that is someone you hold very highly, changing the narrative on you. Believe me, they will do it. That's when you'll see their true colors. So as Dr. Kuyang has said, if there's any way you can take in the evidence, take it in. Don't go through this quietly and then end up being the one accused, as instead of being the one who is the victim, you're being accused for the same act you're reporting. So you need to be very, and when it starts, as she said, the first thing is to put a stop to it immediately. If you don't like what you're being told, say, I don't appreciate that. I didn't like that comment. Please don't do that again. It doesn't matter who it is. They will realize, okay, this is someone I don't want to mess around with, and they will leave you alone. I think it's my time again. So there's a question for me that says, finding a dream job is not easy. And when one happens to get one, they have to do all they can to keep that job. Okay, all they can to keep that job. I find that very interesting, but let me go ahead. So what advice can I give in terms of navigating challenges at work? What are the do's and don'ts? Now, the truth is, there's the HR textbook answer, which most times will not help you. But the reality on the ground is different. I'm going to give you answers on the reality on the ground, not the HR textbook answer. One of the things that I'm going to highlight, which already Dr. Kuyang had highlighted, is women are very emotional. So when we are faced with challenges, we react emotionally. Now we need to put emotions aside. One thing I'll start by highlighting is when tempers flare, for me, and I would recommend just take a walk around the compound. You'll meet someone, you'll exchange greetings, you will laugh at something. By the time you come back, you're a surge of energy. So how you respond to this issue once you're back will be different, as opposed to responding to it in the midst of the tempers and everything happening. The other thing I normally, and this I learned very early in my career through one of my supervisors. She said, never, when you are upset, this is a mistake many women do. So you will be reacting from a place of emotions as opposed to reacting with facts. These are two different things, C, D, E, F, G. But with emotions, you will say the wrong things, and trust me, anything you write shall and will be used against you. It might not be that day, but in future, it will be brought up. As Dr. Kuyang says, and as I'm repeating, keep your emotion to it, sleep over it if you have to, just take time off, cool down, come back and state your facts. That's how you react to things. This is how you keep your job. Because if you react from a place of anger and you say the wrong things, that's the organization that exists. There is life after that organization. Always keep your eyes open for new opportunities. Always keep your eyes open for new opportunities. Reach out to your networks. There's a reason you have networks. There's a reason you have peers within your organized industrial sphere. There's a reason why you have networks and peers within and outside. Now find out from these peers, from these networks, who is hiring, which organization is going to have a vacancy soon. Start networking for it. by simply reaching out or sharing your credentials. Another thing to use is LinkedIn as well, that since I'm here, there's no way I'm leaving. No, always be ready to make the next move. Never be the one to be caught off guard. This is an advice I was given. This is an advice I'm giving you. The other thing is, if you're in a workplace, find positive influences. Find positive influences in that organization where you work, in that company where you work, in that office where you work. Find positive influences. Surround yourself with people who will give you hope, people who will encourage you, people who will lift you up. They will help you to fight off stress and not to fall into depression, because these are people who will bring your perspective back. Anytime you start talking things that are out of place, they will say, no. This is how you can handle this issue. There are the people who will bring a new perspective to every issue you go to them about. Find these people in your office. The other thing I need you to do is to let it go before you get home. Your family should not face the brunt at the office. So if you're having a bad day at the office, leave it at the office, go home. This is the other thing that most women don't know how to do. If they are upset at the office, they'll go home and be upset to not satisfied with the confrontation we had. Now we need to separate things. Your family doesn't need to bear the brunt of your bad day. Finish it at the office, and if it's at home, finish it at home. Don't take it to the office, because that's what many women do. And that's why you hear many people saying, oh, it's very difficult to work with women. No, it's not difficult. It's just that because we are emotional, we tend not to separate things. So we end up bringing our issues from home into the office, our issues from the office into the house. We need to find a balance as women. So if you're having a bad day at the house, as soon as you get to the office, wear your professional helmet, realize that this is a new environment, I need to behave differently. If it's an issue at the office with your supervisor, with your colleagues, as soon as you leave the office, wear your helmet for the woman of the house, go back home and finish with that helmet, come back to the office with a different one. We need to learn how to separate issues. And then we need to be reasonable with our time. I need to say this, most people, especially women, tend not to take breaks when they're supposed to. Now, you need to learn how to take breaks. If it's lunch break, that is 1 hour, whether you're going to eat or not, take a walk, go and drink coffee, go and read a book, do something, but take that break. If it means just taking a walk or doing something, if you're the kind who goes to the gym, take that break. Your body, your mind needs it. The thing with many of us is that you'll find it's lunchtime, you're eating at your desk, you're working and eating at the same time. You need to take a mental break. It's good for your health. And you need to take your leave regularly. We need to understand that the leave is an entitlement that you need to take, keeping it. I see people with 85 leave days, and I ask myself, so when do you rest? When do you bond with your family, with your friends, when do you actually take a break from what you do? This is some of the things that we do that are not even good for our health. Take regular breaks. Don't be the person in the office where everybody is going and the first thing they say, but so and so, Dr. Kuyang will be the OIC. She never goes anywhere. You need to avoid that, because then you're not only messing up with your physical, but your mental health. Now, the one lesson I learned very early in my career was this: you teach your supervisors how to treat you. So you need to set your boundaries and maintain them. Now, if you're being asked to work until 7, how do you leave work at 7 and what time are you going to get home? Now, you need to make your supervisors understand in the beginning of the relationship, as soon as you are new to that office, that for me, I don't work past certain hours. I have to be home. If you don't do that, you will be taken advantage of. So boundaries very early. As soon as you join a new organization, set your boundaries so they know, for this one, she goes for lunch, for her 1 hour lunch. By 5 sharp, she's out of the door, she goes home. Now, if you don't set those boundaries very early in your career, you're going to have a very difficult career, because at the end of the day, you're the one who will be overworked. And that means you're going to go through a lot of stress. So yes, there's getting your dream job and there's maintaining it. Maintaining it is by doing the right thing. And as I said earlier, The only thing that will announce you in your career is by you being a professional. That means emotions aside, feelings aside, doing your job with excellence. Some of us get our jobs and we do lackluster jobs. First of all, we are very lazy. We have time to do, you go for lunch, you come after 3 hours, this is not professional. If you want, your work will announce you. You don't, in case I have forgotten something else, I will come back to them later. I have a question for Engineer Ito. Engineer, are there any procedures? We understand that your work environment is a bit different from the ones that we are used to, the formal sector, the ones where we go to the offices. But for you, I know there's going to the field and there's partly the office. So are there any procedures at your work for dealing with sexual harassment? Are the policies and procedures working better for women?
Yes, we have all the procedures being set, but those things are not practically done. It is there in form of written or a document, but people are not actually following it. Even if something happened to you, as I talked to you before, as also Dr. Harriet said it might be your boss who may harass you. And you know very well that the procedures are there. The procedures are there. You can go ahead, tell whosoever who is there, who is responsible for that. But when they see that this is your boss, they may not take that from you. They may not even want to follow the procedures and the policies that are there. Even if you go to the police and tell that, yeah, something happened to me like this, coming back to the office, no one will even listen to you if you don't have the evidence. That is why we were insisting that evidence is more important than anything else. Whether that thing happens to you at night or at daytime, you should have something at least to record the event. The policies that are actually made, like for us, we have women who are working in the oil fields. You don't work based in Juba, and there are policies because we have our own places. Like we have a camp whereby girls, as a girl, you have to be on your own place at your own space. At the other side also is for men. And for our system, most of us are still following the system of Sudan, whereby women are not supposed to be with men in one place, and that. For us, we still maintain that, like in the company that where I'm working, as a woman, when you go to the field, you have your own place. For these men, they are not allowed to come there at such an hour, unless if you have maybe your own personal arrangement with that person. Then that person will be allowed to go there if you allow the person to go there. But according to the policies and regulations of the company, these are not allowed. You can interact outside the office, you can do anything outside, but not within. And it should not be beyond the limits, because we also have these work ethics being said there. If you are working together, you are not supposed to have anything to do with relationship. Otherwise, if they found that, you will be terminated. Those things are there in written, let me say in written, but in real life, we don't follow that. Yeah, I think that is all I can say about the policies and the procedures that we have in that field as engineers. We have the policies, we have this, but they are just there in written form. We don't do it practically.
Thank you, Engineer. I agree with you. We have them, but most times people tend not to take them seriously. Miss Victoria, I'll ask you a question, then Advocate Atong, if you could put on your camera, would be very happy to see your face. As you do that, let me ask Miss Victoria a question. Victoria, how is your organization supporting women subjected to difficult working environments? And what steps do you take in handling these challenges?
Thank you once again, Phoebe, for the opportunity. Maybe for people who are just viewing us for this time before we were introduced, I work for National Empowerment of Positive Women United. This is an organization working for women and girls living and affected with HIV in South Sudan. So we have trained peer counselors and mentor mothers who provide psychosocial support to women when incidents happen to them, like discrimination, or sexual harassment. We have trained peer counselors who normally provide the psychosocial support. We continue providing the counseling, like women who are on treatment, or on ARV, they're on treatment and they've been discriminated. Most of them can change to leave their drugs. They will not take the drugs. So these peer counselors and the mentor mothers continue to provide adherence counseling to them so that, they don't leave their drugs. They have to continue taking their drugs. Okay? The mentor mothers and the peer counselor also share their own experiences. Most of them have gone through the discrimination. They were discriminated one time. So when it happens, they go to share their experience with the person, and at least it helps the person so that the person can cope up with taking the drugs and also, maintaining their status in the community. The mentor mothers also and the peer counselor do linkages when issues of discrimination or sexual harassment happen or GBV happens. They normally link the person who have been affected to our GBV focal person in the office. What also our mentor mothers do is they do home visit. They do home visit and follow up on women who've been affected, who've been subjected to difficult environment. This is their routine work that they do it voluntarily in our office. So you ask me about what steps do we take to address these challenges. As I said earlier, that we had to train women who are living with HIV. It's not just women in the community, but these are women living with the virus. We've trained them as mentor mothers, we've trained them as peer counselors, and they are based in the facility. They are also based in the community. So when these incidents happen and they hear about it, they are there, they show up to help the person, provide counseling, provide linkages, and all the services that they can be able to do at their level. When they are not able to handle the case, because as for us, we are in the secretariat, then they refer the person to us so that we can be able to take it to another level that they are not able to handle. Usually, these women also do provide drug refilling. When women are discriminated, usually they will not want to access any services. They will not want to go to the hospital. They will abandon their drugs. So usually these women help to take the drugs to the person who have been affected, counsel them so that they can be able to continue with their treatment, because this treatment is for life and you have to swallow the medicine every day. So the women also create awareness. Our peer counselor and our mentor mothers do create awareness in the hospital and also in the community about HIV, the basic information about HIV, the importance of PMTCT, the importance of positive living. They also talk about discrimination, stigma and discrimination that are happening to women in the community. So these are some of the ways that we normally handle these cases when it is happening. At times, also, our peer counselor and our mentor mothers, when somebody has been discriminated, chased from the home, beaten, and all that, the mentor mothers take the courage to go to the family, talk to the family, share their own experiences, educate the family about stigma and discrimination, share about how it affects the woman. She's not able to take her treatment. Most of the time, we do a lot of reconciliation. We reconcile the family with the person who was affected, and then the mentor mothers and the peer counselor continues to follow up, to check on the person to ensure that they are on their treatment and they are well. So this is mostly what we do in our organization.
Wow, thank you very much, Victoria. We appreciate all that you're doing, and I'm happy that women are getting to know what services you offer. So if there's anyone who wants to reach out, now they know where to go and who to get in touch with. Thank you very much for that. Advocate Atong, if you're online, please put on your camera. We'd like to ask you a few questions. If you can hear me, one of the questions is, what has been your experience working as an advocate in South Sudan? Do people take what you say seriously, or do they treat your male colleagues more seriously? Advocate Atong, if you can hear me. The question is, what has been your experience working as a lawyer or an advocate in South Sudan? Oh, okay, we've lost her, so I'll just take us to Dr. Kuyang, and I'll be taking you through your last question, Dr. Kuyang. What are the challenges facing women in navigating difficult work environments? What are your recommendations moving forward?
Mhm. Well, I think that what's really, first of all, as long as you're a woman, and if you look at our numbers in South Sudan, you're going to be in a male-dominated space. It doesn't matter which profession you're in, it's going to be dominated by men. And the environments are going to be difficult, ranging from these things we have just talked about, even to some very toxic environments that are also mostly caused by women. And for me, how do you navigate these toxic environments? I think you need to be smart. And I always tell women, be smart. Be smart. And be smart means know your terms, know your contract. If it's too difficult for you, some of the contracts have a lot of legal jargon. Take it to a friend, take it to somebody, let them break it down. What are your obligations? What are your rights? That's one step. Please do that. Some of the contracts are too bulky. Like I have had a contract of around 50 pages. Take your time, go through it, because that way you're going to know, what are my terms, what are my rights. And once you're on top of that, then you are already taking a first step to surviving in that environment. Two, I actually think that the knowledge that you said it earlier, Phoebe, work is politics. We don't want to see it as politics. So when I say be smart, no, on top of knowing your contract, your terms, what are the things that you're going to expose to colleagues at the workplace? This looks like a pep talk, a very simple thing, but what are you going to tell all the colleagues in the office? You have to draw a line between, what you can talk about. There's that popular saying, go do your job, come home, they're not your friends. That's really true, because today you expose something and then that person becomes an enemy tomorrow and they will release. So that's something, that's play with your cards in your chest. That's basically what I'm saying. Give out the professional information, the rest leave. Unless you trust the person so much, then maybe. That's one thing. Another thing, Phoebe, we have really overflagged it. Please be professional. And if you don't know how to be professional, look around. There are always role models. Don't only look to the women, but look to some really, not only the men. Yes, you know, I grew up in the UN. And if I was allowed, I would mention some good professional women. They were really good. They separated the emotion. They sat down, because when you're professional, it's very difficult for people to get at you. You're professional, you know your job, you act like a professional person. It's very difficult for people. You know, people choose their victims carefully in the workplace. You know, they choose people they can manipulate. They choose people that they feel that if they sat before a panel to explain their case, everybody will say no, they are in the wrong. You know, so that. And then another thing, maybe finally, I would like to advise women to know where they are. I always say, know where you are. The work environments are all different. There's the UN where you're really protected. There are some NGOs where you're really protected. Where are you? If you are in a private company, it's going to be a little difficult for you. The company is owned by sometimes individuals or family members. You can never win against those family members. So what I always advise people is draw the line. You know, proximity, they say proximity breeds contempt. And in my experience, I see people going to the office of the boss to greet every day. You know, please avoid that. You always have to draw that, because when you don't do that, you're exposing yourself. You're like, here I am this bear. You can do whatever it is you can do. It may sound as if I am maybe saying that women, because there are people who are extroverts, they're too friendly in the workplace, they're everywhere laughing with everybody. So you need to know where you are. And I conclude by something you said earlier on, Phoebe, that look around. You know, I started working with the UN agency I was with for a very long time, and there are people I still go to the office, they're still there. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Look around, be smart. Know when a work environment is becoming unbearable. Plan your move. Don't be in a situation where you are fired, there's nowhere to go, and then no. Keep yourself abreast of this is no longer working for me. And you know, even as a lawyer, this has nothing to do with law. It has a lot to do with common sense. You just need to know some of these things. If it's not working out, it's getting too bad, I need to move out. And that means you need to look early. It also means you need to save. Try to save for the rainy days. Because as you can plan, maybe the jobs are not there. So if you save, you can afford to stay home for, you know, maybe 6 months as you look for another one. And always make sure that you use the laws, the guidelines, the regulations that are at your disposal. And conclusively, my sisters, evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuyang. Thank you. I think if there's anything the viewers will go home with, one is evidence. Two is professionalism. I think those two, if anything, should be the highlight of the day. I was asked an interesting question that I should highlight challenges facing people, especially women at work today. Now, this, if I'm to highlight the challenges, I think would take another 3-4 hours, but two things stand out for me. One is work-life balance. We are not very good at balancing our lives as women, as professional women. We need to look into that. They say self-care is important. I say self-care is critical. You need to take care of yourself. This just doesn't apply to women, it applies to everybody in the workplace. You need to learn how to balance your life and your workspace. There's no point of working in a place that ends up making you insane, making you irritable. You fight with everybody. If you're at that point, then you need to rethink your strategy. You need to rethink, what do I want for myself? Because you can't be crying every morning when you're going to work. You can't be crying every evening when you're leaving. When will I get out of this place? Now, this is where self-care is a personal initiative. Yes, there are things that have been put in place in most offices. In some offices now, there's working from home, there's taking a day off every 2 weeks or every 2 months. There are several initiatives that organizations are coming up with. But you'll find that even with these initiatives being present, many people still don't use them. You want to work until you kill yourself with the work. I normally tell staff in my offices, the amount of work will not change with or without your presence. So if it's a time that you need to take a break, take that break. It's very critical, it's very important, and learn to balance between your family and your work. Because at the end of the day, when you retire or when you quit and there's no place to go, you're going back home. Now, what happens if you haven't been taking care of that front? How do you go back? And that's why many people after retiring, they don't live long, because you ignored one side of your life and focused on another. You either ignored your family and focused on your career. Most times this is what happens. You focus so much on your career, you ignore your family, but when you retire, this is where you go back to. And when you go back there, you find out you don't have a relationship with anybody because you didn't balance yourself well. So let's really take this work-life balance seriously, especially as women, because most times when women are too career-oriented, their families suffer. And most times when they're so family-focused, in the office, you hear, oh, she's very lazy, she doesn't complete her work on time. So how do you balance so that you're able to deliver at work and deliver at home? So now you know yourself. So you know which areas you need to make amendments. And most times it's just little things you need to change for you to be able to find that balance. The other thing I want to highlight is most people, and most women in this case, once we get that first degree, we get into a career. It's very interesting that Dr. Kuyan just mentioned this. She left an organization and the people she left there are still there. So she entered, found them, left, they are still there. Most of us don't have a career plan. We don't have a career plan. So if you get a job that pays you well, maybe engineer is now technical head of this unit, you don't think beyond that. You decide, okay, technical head is good enough for me, so let me sit here. Now, funny enough is what happens is when a promotion is created in that same unit, you will be surprised that someone junior to you will take up that. Why? While you are comfortable, they did international certifications, they went back and did their masters, they are doing their doctorate because they have a plan. In the next 5 years, I'm going to be a doctor, so I'm going to be Dr. Phoebe. In the next 5 years, so what do I need to get to that level of my career? I'm going to be the biggest engineer in South Sudan. What do I need to do between now and that time? Because you also need to give yourself a time frame. I am now a program assistant. In the next 2 years, I'm going to be a program officer. What are the requirements? Minimum qualifications for a program officer. I must have a master's degree. I must have at least 1 international certification. I must have at least 6 years of work experience. So what do I need to do between in these 2 years to be able to get to that level? Okay, I need to go back, do my master's, because then I need to acquire the minimum qualifications so as to be considered. I hear many people complaining, oh, I applied for this job and I was not given. As a HR, I would tell you, do you know that we have to go over 600 CVs? And you need to read this word by word. First, if you have a poor CV, read literally, no HR is going to have time to start putting your CV together for you. And you say, but I have all the qualifications, but did you highlight them? As I said earlier, most women don't highlight their achievements. So you want this HR who has 600 CVs to read to highlight for you your own achievements. Are you seeing how it's not even practical? Now, this HR manages to shortlist 30 people. What do you think they will be looking at to reach to the 10 they need to call for interviews? What is that thing that the 10 have that you don't have? So all of you have bachelor degrees, all of you have masters, Well, then you get to realize, okay, engineer went and did an international certification. She's internationally recognized. That will be number one on the shortlist for the 10 to be interviewed. And then you will be the same one complaining, oh, these people are so unfair. They don't shortlist some of us. But there are women in South Sudan who have better qualifications than you because they have a career plan. They know where they want to be in the next few years. And most times it's very few people who have a career plan. For you to have a career plan, you will have a strategy. And individuals, and this has nothing to do with whichever organization you're working in. This has everything to do with you as an individual. Where do you see yourself? This is one thing that many women don't do in most offices. So they get bypassed for promotions that in all sense should be theirs. Because someone junior to you took time to prepare very well. And now they are ready for that position in terms of meeting the minimum requirements. Now you will hear many people saying, oh, but the only thing that disqualified me is just the master's. If I had my master's, well, don't let it be your excuse next time. If that's what disqualified you today, next time, make sure when they are shortlisting, you have it as a qualification. So don't let yourself be the reason why you're not progressing wherever you are. And if there are no opportunities where you are, look outside. I keep saying this, look outside. You can get out and come back in. Nothing is stopping you. You can get out, and even when you get out, you have a different perspective of the other organizations that are outside there. You can go out, learn new things, learn new skills, acquire new skills, so that by the time you're applying back, you're applying at a higher level position, which is to a better advantage for you. So I'm just going to highlight those two things, and then probably take engineer, then back to Ms. Victoria. So engineer, what are the main challenges facing women engineers in South Sudan? I know you might not know all of them, but I'm sure you know some of them. What are some of those challenges facing women engineers in South Sudan? And what are your recommendations moving forward?
Thank you, Ms. Lodiong, once more, and thanks to everyone. You can all hear me? Challenges
Yes.
are anything. Challenges are things that can prevent us from our future movement or making any progress in any development that you are planning to do, like maybe today or in future. Of course, each and every work station have challenges, and in the like in my profession as an engineer, there is gender discrimination. That is the first challenge that we are facing. Of course, in gender discrimination, being exposed to the work risk job environment, it's something unavoidable. You cannot avoid it. It's something that you have to go through it. But for men, they don't believe in us women who are engineers. They don't think that we are capable of doing what they are supposed to do. Like, let me take, for example, women who did civil engineering. Sometimes their rights, it's been denied. They may tell you, no, you know what? You can just be here, do something, do a paperwork. If this person continue doing a paperwork, how will that person really learn? That person need to do something practical, so that the next time she is going to do another paper, going for more further studies, the person will at least know that I went through this and this is what I feel, and these are some of the challenges that I faced while I was doing this. She will be able to do something much better than that. Men in this engineering field, they don't, like, they really take women as nothing. Let me say, even in my own field, as a petroleum, in the petroleum sector, women are not allowed to go to the field. And I do ask them that please, I need to go to the field so that I will have my own experience. From the field, I have plans that I need to go back to school and do something. But just being here in the office doing paperwork will not help me. I need to go to the field and really see the real situation that I will face. But they don't allow that. The reason why they don't allow that is safety, a safety of a woman in that field. In the oil sector, the oil sectors are not really provided with enough safety for women. That's why sometimes they don't allow women to go to the field. There, of course, a lot of environmental impact that will happen. So that is why sometimes they believe on men to go to the field as he is a man, even if he's exposed to some environmental impact, it may not react like a woman being exposed to those same environmental impact. And one of the things I may also talk about is the discrimination in distribution of job in that in the engineering department. That one is there. We as female engineers are not being given the same job description, or maybe higher job descriptions like men. If you can now see, for example, of South Sudan, you can see all these oil operating companies. It does not mean that we don't have women who are qualified. Those women are there. We have women who are qualified, but those men do underlook, or they don't look at us as if we are capable, that we don't have the capabilities of holding those job positions without even giving us that try. But I believe in myself, there are women who can do in that sector more better than men. I believe in that. And for me, my advice to other fellow engineers or any other fellow woman who is outside there, you have to try your best. You have to try your best. Work as much as you can, as you love your profession, and prove to them that you are capable of doing this. And you are even capable of doing a better one than what they think that you cannot do. The second challenge that also we are facing is things now to do with the child care in that field. It's not easy for you as engineer, maybe to have a small baby, you go with it to that environment, like maybe when you're post in the field, with that relationship between you and your family always become one of the major things for us as engineers. And even if you're applying to get a job in the oil industry, the first thing they ask you is like, are you married? If you are married, the probability of you getting a job there is, let me say, 25%. Unless if you are single, you will have at least 75%, you will get that job. If you I asked one of them, like, why are they doing this? They say, no, if you are married, you will be given that contract now. After 2 to 3 months, you will be pregnant. You need to take a leave. You need to do that. But for us, we don't have that because we work day and night. We work day and night. We work from Monday to Sunday. We don't need such interruptions. And then I asked them also, what if now, if I got a job when I'm still single, and then within 2 to 3 months, I got married and I got pregnant? They were like saying, at that 1 year, for the next contract, we may not, we may not give you that second chance. So we are facing a lot. We are facing a lot. And then the third point is, of course, the conflict of life balance, like what you said before. That one makes life also so difficult for us in that field as engineers. This one actually happens when you cannot perform well at work. And maybe also in the house, you are also having some difficulties because you may be sent to the field, let me say, for a month, but due to this corona thing, you may take 3 months to be in the field. And here you have a family. You have your husband who is in need of you, who is in need of services from you. You have a child. that you at least need to have that time with, and here you have your career. So this is one of the major challenges actually that we have, the conflict of life balance within this engineering sector. And then of sexual harassment will be like the fourth challenge that we are also facing there. Of course, we talk about this, but I will just highlight it as one of the things that we are facing. Yes, as females, you may be assigned somewhere, like, yeah, you have to do this. If you don't do this, at least you have to offer me this so that I cancel this, you will be put on this. Yeah. So, okay. It's okay. I think let me just put something as advice. So my summary in all of this, for me, and for each and every woman, or for any other woman who works in that department, you have to believe in yourself. That is the first thing. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in what you do, and you should have that confidence in yourself that this is what I can do. And then also when you're working, see where you find your weaknesses in your workplace, whether it's at workplace or whether at home. Find your weaknesses and try to improve on your weaknesses. And I think that is all the summary I can.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer Ito. Thank you very much. Just throwing it out there, maybe you want to consider starting an association of female engineers. That would probably be something that would help you guys set your grievances, officially. I think that is something you might want to think about and maybe probably initiate it. I'd like to ask Advocate Atong, welcome, good to see you. We understand the internet challenges that you've been having. I'll just ask you, in the interest of time, I'll ask you just 2 quick questions, and then we can move forward. One of the questions we are very interested in knowing is, what has been your experience as an advocate in South Sudan? Do people take what you say seriously, or do they treat your male colleagues more seriously than you? We would love to hear from you on this.
Okay, thank you so much, moderator, and my colleagues, the panelists. I hope I'm being heard clearly.
Yes,
Am I being
yes,
heard?
we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you.
As an advocate, I think I was asked to respond in Arabic, but I will just do it in English and then maybe come back and do a small summary.
Sure.
Our work as advocates is mainly like a business. It's like we are doing a business, and then people come to us asking for a certain service. For example, if someone wants to be represented in the court, or someone wants to have an agreement or an MOU or a sale agreement or whatever, that's when they come to us. So mostly it's about the clients more than any other institutions. In South Sudan, let me say Africa in general, is not only in South Sudan. Women are not taken serious, not because they are not doing well, not because they don't know what they are doing, but at some points it depends on the mentality, the mindset of some people on how they perceive women when coming to certain issues. For example, if there's a case of a murder case, for example, we call it 206. Normally, the clients will prefer to go for a male advocate than the female advocate, thinking that male advocate, this is a very tough case. It needs a man, as if it needs, muscles or something. And this is just something people believe in. It's just a mindset. Women advocates are doing very well and are doing very great things. They are moving mountains, not to be too much, but they are doing a lot more than men do. But men will just be taken, seriously than women, just because, this is a murder case. But if someone want to maybe sell a car, or they want to go for a lease agreement, then they come for women. But of course, there are those women. I'm talking about the general thing. But of course, there are women advocates that are doing very well, that are really doing better than men themselves, and men know about this. And the stereotype has been that as a woman, you will not be taken serious. You have to be soft. You have to be this. You have to be this. So some of the female get, not only female advocates, but female generally, because this is how they were brought up. So you will tend to be, moving slowly when you come in front of people, when you are given a certain, maybe something to do, then. But that is not to be general, not to generalize women. So basically, my experience have been good so far, but I have gone through these things. At some point, I ask clients. So you don't come for if you have a murder case, you will not come here. God forbid. But I'm just saying, okay, if you have a murder case, you will come here. But if you have a lease agreement, you will not come here.
We seem to have lost Advocate Atong, probably the ongoing internet issues. So I'll just ask Ms. Victoria the last question of the day. What are the challenges facing women, especially those who are HIV positive and those living with other disabilities in their places of work? And what are your recommendations moving forward? I don't know whether we have tackled this.
Not yet.
Yes, so please go ahead.
Yes, thank you once again. I really appreciate this discussion. It's really helpful and we are learning a lot. There are very many challenges facing women living with HIV and the ones with the disability. And really, for the women living with HIV, one of the biggest challenge is self-stigma. The fear of, thinking about people, maybe thinking that they know that you have the virus. It limits the person to access treatment. It limits the person, to socialize, to move on with life. It is the biggest challenge. And that is what I'm requesting. All women living with HIV should come out of the self-stigma. They have to accept that they're having the virus, because once you have the virus, you have to live with the virus for life. Once you have the virus, there's no way out. There's treatment that is helping people to move on with their life. That is the biggest challenge that women are really facing. The other challenge that most of the women also face, like the pregnant women, they really fear infecting their unborn child with the virus. But the good news is treatment is there. Once you are on treatment, you'll be able to take the drugs, it will suppress the virus, and you are able to produce a child who is negative from the virus. Okay? Another challenge that women are facing is the husband. Once the husband knows their HIV status, women who don't know their rights and they are living with the virus, the men will limit them from accessing services. They will tell them, I don't want you to go to the hospital. Because they know very well, once the woman and she's pregnant, once she goes to the hospital, they will test her, they will know that she has the virus. So they will limit her movement not to go to the hospital, not to deliver in the hospital. And this is a biggest challenge. So I am asking all the women living with the virus to know their rights. They have rights to health. They have rights to health. So there's nobody should limit them from accessing their rights to health. So this is one of the things that we are really facing, and we are trying to talk to women so that they can really overcome it. women fear divorce. Women fear divorce because once they are tested positive, the husband will get to know it, and then the man will divorce. We keep asking them, once a man loves you, he will always love you. Even women who are living with the virus, they are men, even if you tell them that you are living with the virus, they will say, I love you and I want to marry you. And for sure, if they are serious, they will marry you with the virus. And you will live your life productive and successful. You will produce children who are negative. Women with disability, of course, as we continue to say it, they are suffering a lot from sexual harassment, bullying and all that, and gossiping and all that. They need to overcome it because they're not the only one. They have to move on with their life, okay? Women living with HIV have been given names. They've been named as a living coffin, good for nothing. They are prostitutes. There are very many things that these women go through, but they are strong. The ones that have accepted that they are living with the virus and they want to live longer, take care of their families, they've lived longer and they are living longer and happily. So these are some of the challenges that women are going through, and we continue asking the women to be strong and move on with their life. Some of the recommendations that I can give and really was to the South Sudan women intellectuals, really to continue advocating on zero discrimination. Zero discrimination against women and girls living with HIV and with disability. We really want to see this discrimination come to an end because these women, their family needs them. Once they are discriminated against, they will not be able to access their treatment. They will not be able to move on with their life. The question I keep asking is, if they die today, who is discriminating against them, will you be able to take care of their children as if they were alive? So in most cases, we don't see that because we have lost many and millions of our people due to self-stigma, due to stigma because they refuse to take the treatment, because of the way people talk about them, because of the way people look at them and discriminate it. So if we end this discrimination, we will be able to have people who are productive, they are living with the virus, and they move on with their life. We also continue to ask women, South Sudan women intellectuals, to continue creating awareness on stigma and discrimination because it cannot be left alone to us. It is a collective effort. We need to do it in every channel and in all the ways that we can do so that this stigma and discrimination come to an end. We also continue to ask the women intellectuals if they can be able to, come up with income generating activities. To some of these women, really, there are some of them who've been chased from their homes. All their properties are burnt. They are living on the street and they don't have anything that they can do. And as for us, NEPO, we don't have the money. We don't have funds to support specifically women who've been discriminated. So we do our limit to how we can support. At times our volunteers, when they try to help to pick somebody on the street who've been discriminated, when this person died, the family abandoned the dead body to these women. We've had our women who've gone to dig the grave and bury somebody because they were abandoned by the family to them. So this is a big problem that we are having, and we really need collective support from all over. Whoever can help, let them support. We need our women to come up. We need them to be trained, on tailoring, entrepreneurship, small businesses, so that they can move on with their life. We need also training to our women leaders and women groups on stigma and discrimination. the overall, what I can say this evening is we want zero discrimination against women and girls living and affected by HIV and disability. Thank you very much, Phoebe.
Thank you very much. That was a powerful those are powerful recommendations and a great showstopper for this conversation. I think we've come to the end of this session today. I just want to thank you all panelists for making time to educate us, to have this discussion. I also want to give my thanks to the UN Women for supporting our women with access to the internet and a safe space for the discussion. And to our audience, we also want to say thank you, because without you, there would be no forum, there would be no discussion. So thank you very much. And please don't forget to tune in next week for our discussion at the same time. And I just want to wish you a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Just remember to always be kind. Kind to the next person, kind to your neighbor, kind to your workmate. Be kind to everybody. Let's make the world a kind place. Thank you very much and have a wonderful time.